You're live, Chair.
Thank you. Good evening and welcome to this North West Area Planning meeting on the 11th of September 2024. My name is Councillor Maddie Thompson. I'm the chairman of this committee. Members, we're streaming this meeting live as well as recording, and by being present in the meeting, you're giving your consent to being recorded. During each item, please put up your hand to indicate if you wish to speak. I will then invite you at the appropriate time. Could I ask members to avoid approaching the top table, as this can create interference with the cameras and live stream. Please note that the YouTube live stream sound recording is dependent on the correct use of microphones. Therefore, can I ask that when invited to speak, you remember to turn on your microphone and turn it off when finished. Please reference a page or paragraph number when referring to agenda papers and keep your contributions as clear and concise as possible. We do not have any fire alarm testing scheduled today. If you hear the alarm, please exit using either of the two marked fire escape routes. Once out of the building, please proceed to the designated muster point located on the grass verge by the police station entrance. Members, there's no members update this evening, so we go straight on to item 2, apologies for absence. Please, Mr. Jones.
Good evening, Chair. Thank you. We have apologies from Councillors Durham, Hughes, Morgan, Siddle, Stevens and Councillor White. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Item 3 is minutes. The minutes of the meeting held on 14th of August found on pages 7 to 10. It's recommended they're approved as a true and accurate record. I'll take them as read. I so propose. Can I have a seconder? Thank you, Councillor Morley. Are there any matters of accuracy either of you'd like to raise? No, thank you. So can we agree those by assent? Thank you. They're agreed by assent. Item 4 is declarations of interest to disclose the existence and nature of any disclosable pecuniary interests, other registrable interests and non-registrable interests relating to items of business on the agenda, having regard to paragraph 9 and appendix B of the Code of Conduct for members. Members are reminded they're also required to disclose any such interests as soon as they become aware, should the need arise through the meeting. Members, any disclosure of interests? No, that's a no. Thank you, Mr. Jones. So item 5, our planning application, which is land adjacent to the Owls, Woodham Road, Stow. That's found on pages 11 to 34. So we have a presentation from Mrs. Kirkcaldy along on my right there, and then we have Mr. Davis, the agent, who will be speaking. Thank you.
Thank you and good evening, everyone. This application is for outline planning permission with all matters reserved apart from access for the erection of 2 residential dwellings on land adjacent the Owls, Woodham Road in Stow. The application site is situated outside of but adjacent to the settlement boundary for Stow, as can be seen on this plan here. So the site's in this location, development boundary is on the outside edge. It is on a corner plot to the south of Woodham Road and to the west of Church Lane. The site measures approximately 0.19 hectares and is currently used as a grass paddock. The nearest bus stops are approximately 125 metres from the site. There are 4 bus operators in the village of Stow, which provide a frequency of just 1 bus a day during the term time. This is an aerial photograph of the site extracted from the heritage statement that was submitted with the application. So we can see the site here outlined in red and the relationship with the neighbouring listed properties. So we've got Stow Hall just here, and that's a grade 2 listed building. The site is also bounded by a hedgerow, which is protected by a hedgerow retention notice. This notice was imposed in 2001. The hedgerow runs along this edge here. I thought it might be useful for members just to briefly touch on the hedgerow notice. So we can see from this extract of the decision notice, it was found to be important as evidence provided by the Essex Record Office found that the hedgerow formed an integral part of pre-parliamentary enclosure field system. The parliamentary enclosure field system came into effect in the 17th century, so it's quite a historic hedge. Officers have sought a legal opinion on the implications if planning permission were to be approved, and it has been clarified that a further application to remove the hedgerow would not be required. So the granting of planning permission would also allow the removal of the hedge. So the application is in outline form with only the matter of access for consideration. We can see on the indicative block plan that 2 detached L-shaped dwellings are proposed. So in these locations here. In the committee report, officers have raised concern regarding this courtyard form of development, which does not appear to reflect the linear form of development evident in the village of Stow Maries. We can also see the extensive hedgerow that would be required to be removed. So this section here and along here would be required to be removed, and the application is proposing replanting sort of here. With this layout, there would be sufficient space within the indicative layout to provide sufficient car parking and gardens to accord with the standards. No indicative elevations have been provided. However, this would be a matter for reserved application if the application was to be approved. So as part of the application to provide some mitigation for the loss of the hedgerow, the applicant is proposing to plant hedgerow within the site and also 135 metres of hedgerow here. This is outside of the application site and no legal agreement has been submitted with the application to secure this. The council's arboricultural officer has raised no objections to the proposal. However, as officers have detailed in the committee report, we are concerned about the extent of hedgerow to be removed in excess of 20 metres to facilitate the access and visibility displays and the detrimental impact this would have on the character and appearance of the area. The hedgerow has previously been defined by a planning inspector as a strong landscape feature in the area, and officers consider this still relevant in the assessment of this application. So on this plan here, we have the proposed vehicular access identified off Church Lane. So the access would be here. This is Church Lane here, and this is Woodham Road here. The access would be 5.5 metres wide, and we can see the extent of the visibility displays that are required by this red dashed line here and here as well. The Highway Authority have raised no objection to the proposal subject to conditions, which includes the achievement of the visibility displays. So this is an artist impression of what the site could look like from Church Lane towards Woodham Road. So we can see the Grade 2 listed Stow Hall in the background here, and the proposed open frontage of the site following the removal of the hedgerow. Just here, so this would be the proposed access in. The Heritage and Conservation Specialist has been consulted on the application and hasn't raised any objections at this outline stage, but has commented that if permission is granted, the layout, scale, material and detailing would need to be carefully considered at a reserved matters application to ensure it's sympathetic to the listed buildings in the vicinity. Just looking at some photographs now. So actually this photograph here is in a similar position to the indicative perspective that we've got. This is taken from Church Lane looking towards Woodham Road. So the site is on the left here, and we can see the hedgerow, and the proposed access into the site is almost immediately opposite the access we can see in this photograph. And then this, obviously this part of the hedgerow would be removed to achieve the visibility displays. This photograph is of the access road opposite the site, and we can see they've got sort of hedgerows and more manicured along the edge of the footpath. And then this photograph is taken from Woodham Road, and we can see, and that's Church Lane there, and then we can see the hedgerow and the sites behind the back of here. Another photograph taken on the junction of Church Lane and Woodham Road. We can see an existing sort of pedestrian gate which provides access into the site, and the proposed vehicular access would be up here somewhere into the site. Again, this part of the hedgerow would need to be removed to achieve the visibility displays for the access. This photograph was taken from the pedestrian gate looking south in the site. We can see the outbuildings in the distance and the owls. A planning inspector has previously commented on the character of the site, stating that the undeveloped nature of the site enables the countryside to penetrate into the heart of the village. And I think that's still relevant in assessing this application. This photograph was taken from the hall, Smith Hall, to the southeast of the site on Church Lane, looking through the hedgerow. And again, we can just see Stow Hall here in the background. And again, the access would be here, and then this part of the hedgerow would need to be removed. This photograph was taken again from the pedestrian field access, and Woodham Road is just behind the hedgerow here. So in terms of the planning balance exercise, there are economic and social benefits of the proposal. It's reasonable to assume that the proposed dwellings and prospective occupants would provide support for local businesses in the vicinity. It would also provide additional dwellings within the district. However, the benefits are limited given the scale of the development proposed. The council can also demonstrate a 5-year housing land supply. The site is outside of the settlement boundary in an unsustainable location. The bus service is limited, and there would be inevitably be a reliance on the private vehicle to access employment services and facilities in the larger towns and villages. The financial contribution towards RAMS has not been secured. Therefore, the development would have an adverse impact on European designated nature conservation sites. The proposal would also result in the loss of ancient hedgerow, which would result in harm to the character and appearance of the area. In summary, the environmental harms of the proposal do not outweigh the benefits in the planning balance. Therefore, the officer recommendation is refusal of the application, and the reasons for refusal are detailed on pages 32 and 33 of the committee report. Thank you.
Thank you. So, Mr. Davis, if you'd like to come forward. I'm sure you know the rules, but I'm going to tell you again anyway. Please take a seat, make yourself comfortable. Please use the microphone. We're just about to get the timer up. Sorry. And you will have in a moment 2 minutes from when you begin to speak. Just set that at 2 minutes. Can we get the 2 minutes on there? There you go.
Oh, sorry.
No, you're fine. You're fine. Sorry. Begin when you're ready.
Good evening. My name's Adam Davies from Cirrus Property, and I'm speaking tonight on behalf of the applicants, Mr. and Mrs. Wilmot. I'd like to thank your officers for their balanced committee report and Juliet for her presentation. Mr. and Mrs. Wilmot are grateful that their application is being considered tonight and hope you have been able to visit to help you reach your own conclusions about the acceptability of this proposal. We appreciate that the site lies outside of the settlement boundary. However, we feel it is unique, being surrounded by development and located centrally in the village. I'm sure members will agree it is important that the district's villages have the opportunity to grow in a proportionate way so that balanced communities can be maintained. In my opinion, this is a sustainable location and suitable for the modest development now proposed. You will be aware that permission was granted for 3 new houses on the opposite side of Woodham Road. In sustainability terms, surely both sites have to be considered to perform equally well. We believe the current proposal for only 2 dwellings will also respect the character of Woodham Road. The built form can be set back from the frontage and most of the hedge can be retained. No objection has been raised by your conservation officer. While it is regrettable some hedge needs to be removed to provide access, the part affected is only classified as Category C of low quality and value. Replacement and compensatory planting can be secured by planning condition, and the council's own arboricultural consultant has not raised any objections. Finally, Mr. Wilmot has no objection to making the RAMS payment, so if you are minded to support this application tonight, you could resolve to grant permission subject to this being secured. Thank you for allowing me the opportunity to address you.
Thank you very much. So, members who'd like to start? Councillor Morley.
Can I see the aerial, the plan, the photograph, rather than that you had a... Please, if I may, that's it. Yeah, 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 yeah. say it's in the middle of the country, but it is surrounded an awful lot by various other developments. And I'm a bit puzzled as regards saying it's in the middle of the countryside and there is 4 buses. Sustainability, I think, is absolutely fine. I mean, to be honest with you, people in that area, they'll all use cars anyway, I would have thought. There are very many people would use a bus there. If you could just explain to me how you've come to that decision when it is surrounded by other properties, please. Thank you.
Yeah. So yes, I agree there is residential development in the vicinity of the site. We have it here and here, and then we've got Smith Hall here, but obviously we've got the fields and the paddocks in this area here. And I think we were just taking our cues from what the planning inspectors previously said about it penetrating in to the village, with the countryside sort of penetrating through.
Councillor Whiffen.
Sorry, right, I have a number of things that I've written out. Do you want me to just read them all out to you in one go, or?
Questions?
Well, they're part questions, part observations.
Okay. Would you like questions all in one go or one at a time?
They're not very technical.
Okay, maybe one at a time.
Right, the first statement was obviously to reiterate what Councillor Morley said, that how can it not be in a sustainable location when permission was approved for the large houses directly opposite? And again about the development boundary. The other thing is, with regard to the hedging question, as there's already an access in that, I can't really see the problem with another little bit of it. And also, there is, the hedge is really, really unkempt and not really attractive looking. So I think that would benefit from removal there, that part of it.
I think the access that's there at the moment is just like a pedestrian gate. The vehicular access, the extent of hedgerow that would need to be removed is in excess of 20 metres. So it's obviously substantial more than what the pedestrian gate is at the moment.
Plan that shows
Yeah.
it's been hacked back.
So the pedestrian gate you're talking about is just here. And I suppose that's sort of a small puncture into the hedgerow at the moment, whereas what's proposed is actually removal of a significant proportion of the hedgerow to achieve the vehicular access and the visibility displays. In terms of its sort of unkept nature, obviously that's down to sort of the maintenance of it. I did have a look back through Google Street View back to 2021, I believe it was. Unfortunately, I haven't got a picture, but it was cut and maintained at that point. So it did look quite different to what it looks like now.
Right, sorry, just that I obviously drove down there, and to me, when you come out of that road, that removal of that section of hedge would make that road a lot safer, it seems to me, from if you come out of Church Lane onto Woodham Road. So that's really all I want noted. The other thing was, Church Lane is a cut through used by many vehicles to avoid traffic, so I can't see as the extra vehicles mentioned in the report that I read earlier make much difference to the traffic travelling along that road. And the private road opposite, when I drove down, that's hardly inconspicuous or not. That I read somewhere that it says about the drawing attention to the actual private road when you're driving past on Woodham Road, but it wouldn't, because that road is pretty in your face as it is. It doesn't, to me, it makes no difference whatsoever to that, or wouldn't. There was cars parked along there when I drove up there down that private road, and I can't see what difference that would make, to be honest.
I don't really have any comments on that, no.
Thanks.
Yes, Michael, have you got anything to say on that?
Not on the last points. I mean, there are no highway objections in terms of how things currently exist. The highway comments relate to the proposal, and we could see that in order to achieve a satisfactory highway compromise with the development, there would have to be quite a severe change to the character of that corner. And I think one of the consistent considerations with this site through the various applications and appeals over the last 20 odd years has been the character of the area, its contribution to the area, the protection of the historical hedgerow. I mean, it's of historical significance going back to the 17th century. The fact that it's not kept up by the applicant or the owner or whoever owns it is not a material consideration as such. I mean, hedgerows are, not inanimate objects. They are living characters or characteristics of areas, and policies have sought to protect these and to maintain these. Yeah, there is development around it, but the things that were picked up from the previous inspector's decision was that this provides that countryside relief to that part of the town by maintaining how it is, yeah, and how it's further linked into development on the sort of southeast in terms of what it brings into the into the area. So those are the actual sort of planning consideration that we have to take into consideration.
Yes, please.
From driving down there again, I can't see, as you can actually see that site from the road, you can't see it at all because of the hedge. And it mentions about open spaces and it infiltrating on open spaces, but the open spaces don't actually start until the other side of the Owls.
No, we do clearly appreciate what you say in that sense. I mean, obviously, we take our position based on the policy to protect areas of this nature. The fact that there is a historical hedge there is of significance. Ultimately, it will be down to members in terms of the impact of this development on the area. I mean, from my own view, there will be quite a drastic change to the appearance of that nature by removing that curvature, basically having looks like quite a savage splay, to provide the appropriate sight lines for vehicle safety movement, which to me personally is a poor reflection on development if it has to be that severe in that sense. Actually for what it is, but it's ultimately going to be down to members and what you think about that.
Yep, please carry on.
Sorry, can I just ask for my own benefit, because as you know, I'm quite new to all this, so I've totally forgotten what I was going to say now. Because it's outline planning, could that access not be agreed as a condition, or does that have to be done at outline stage?
That will have to be done at outline stage. That's one of the fixed matters.
Councillor Morley.
Yeah, if I could come back. If highways have no objection, then hedge conservation are happy with it to be removed but replanted. Is that what you were saying? Are they happy with that? If that's, we can sort of get to that.
So we haven't had any objections from them, but I will just clarify that the arboricultural report that was submitted didn't make reference to the hedgerow protection notice.
Oh, okay.
Okay, so just to make that point clear as well. So
to try and you could move the hedge and rebuild the hedge as grow a new hedge, and that would be all right in your view, really, would it? Or
well, obviously officers are concerned about the impact of the removal of the hedge. We haven't had any objections from our arboricultural officer or the heritage officer in relation to the scheme. But as I just said, there wasn't any reference to the hedgerow in the report that was submitted.
And I think just to make the point, the arboriculturist is not going to make a comment in terms of the impact of the hedgerow whether it's removed or altered in any way on the character of the area. They're concerned with the hedgerow as a species, as an organic species, and its contribution in that sense. So we just need to make a distinction, because they may not have no objection to the technicalities of the arboricultural report in that sense. That's not to say that they're happy, for want of a better term, with the removal of the hedge.
So how much of it would be replanted in the proposed, I didn't quite hear what the developer was saying.
Okay, so in the proposed replanting, so they're proposing, actually if I go back to there, so they're going to replant it sort of here, so sort of diagonal, and a bit of, this is indicative at the moment, and suggested planting here. And then there was also the suggestion of 135 metres of hedgerow here, but that's outside of the red line plan, and we don't have a legal agreement to secure that.
So could you put that in a condition? Could you condition that at all?
Probably could condition it, right?
Well, if it's outside of the red line plan, that can only be secured by a legal agreement. So if members were minded to overturn officer's recommendation and recommend approval for this, it would have to be subject to a Section 106 agreement in terms of the RAMS payment, and also in terms of any off-site contributions. I mean, those are quite, it's not something that you can spin around in a week, and it would have to be subject to the usual negotiation, which normally takes the lifetime of an application in itself. And if these things were not secured, then planning permission couldn't be granted.
No, I'm a little confused with it all now. So the hedge to me is...
Sorry, as I said earlier, the hedge is just, to be honest, it's just a mess. And I know what you're saying, and it's protected, but surely there must be a way around that. There's a break in the hedge already for the gate, for the pedestrian gate. I can't. It's not like it's a continuous hedge that has no breaks in it. So, to me, I can't really see as it is that important.
I think to all intents and purposes, the hedge currently addresses the corner in its natural form. It's in terms of its curvature and its proximity to the sort of edge where it abuts the highway itself. It's not that dissimilar to what's on the opposite side of Church Street, albeit the other side is manicured. But in terms of what we look as a character, it maintains a character in that sort of sense. So that's the consideration, not the fact that it's not kept up. Its historical significance. One is the fact that it's there. One that is ancient, but also that it's in its natural alignment to how the sort of historical village road and flora have been sort of developed over the years. I mean that's one of the considerations. Yeah.
Sorry, it also blocks the view of the open countryside.
Well,
That's true, but it doesn't have to. That's the choice of the owner to have it in this condition. What sort of proportion of the hedge would go if this were granted?
I believe it's about 20 metres.
Right, okay. The main thing I wanted to say really was that it's not unusual to have green spaces in the middle of villages in this district, and I can think of two just off the top of my head where green spaces have been found at appeals to be important enough to prevent any development. And quite recent appeals have found they should remain simply because they're there, and in both cases they're not open to the public, they're privately owned. And one hidden by a lime hedge that actually means you can't easily see in. You can walk up to the gate and look in, but you don't see it from all angles. But that was still found to be important enough to keep. Nevertheless, I'm in your hands, members. Is there any possibility of a proposal, please?
The hedge is the sticking point, basically, isn't it? This is the thing.
And the fact that it's an open green space. And it might end up, it's only indicative that they're going to be bungalows. That doesn't necessarily mean that's what we're going to end up with, because that's not part of tonight's decision.
Sure, that would be resolved at a
Later
stage,
date.
wouldn't it?
What would be there would be resolved. Tonight is about the principle of development and the access only.
So it all really just comes down to the hedge, doesn't it?
The hedge and the green
I'm
space.
just asking, obviously, because it, surely with all the development that's gone on around there, with those houses opposite and stuff, and please correct me if I'm wrong, surely that thing is more related to the appeal thing that everyone was talking about.
Yeah, I mean, but that has found, in planning terms, that has been found to be important. But members don't necessarily have to agree with planning terms, but members do need to consider the fact that a decision on a site like this may have implications for other developments we know of a similar form in a similar sort of area. We would have to take that into consideration, notwithstanding the fact that all applications are considered on their own merits. We do have to consider a consistency of how we approach things. I mean, I think as already been said, it is in outline. It is in outline form, but what is fixed is that angled line, that corner, in terms of any development that may come out of any reserved matters applications.
Sorry, just as a thought again, and I am asking rather than questioning, the private road opposite doesn't have any, surely that would have the same amount of visibility coming out as what the site would have. So why, I don't understand the necessity to take that splay back that far. Could it not be put through with a condition that is, it can't?
This has been looked at by the Highway Authority, or obviously the sort of experts with this, in terms of visibility splays, and it is sort of done on the angles of the road and the distances as well. And this is what they've, probably go back to that one. You can see it's probably because it's quite a sharp corner here.
You can see the difference.
Yeah.
You can see why they would be different.
I don't know why it's not squared off, why that has to be an angle.
Well, there are fixed dimensions and parameters in terms of, what a vehicle user can see from their vehicle at a certain distance, at a certain angle, to be able to provide, safe ingress and egress. So those are technicalities that we can't argue against in that sense. And similarly, the highway authority wouldn't look at the access opposite and take that as a precedent, say, well, okay, that one's there and that's like that, and this is the condition of that site. So it's fine for any new proposals based against current standards. These are standards based around safety, highway safety, and it would be remiss of a local authority to go against the current standards.
Space. So I think the proposal we go to the offices.
Is that a proposal? Okay. Seconded? I'll second that. So we have a proposal on the table. Those in favour of the officer's recommendation to refuse? That's 2. Those against? 1. So that is a majority for the officer's recommendation to refuse. Thank you. So, item 6 is any other items of business the chairman of the committee decides are urgent. You'll be pleased to hear there are none. So with thanks to officers, members and members of the public, I'll close the meeting at 8:03. Thank you.